started this war as a result of self-defense. The movements have been hijacked by an ideology that in itself is self-defeating. And our people, the youth, our people on the ground, you saw for the first time, you saw even Amazonian fighters in Bui protesting on the street against extreme groups within our struggle. The Cameroon military is not to say that they are free. We have seen they were burning houses, but we have seen some changes, a little bit changes in their behavior. Nevertheless, we are saying it is time for reconciliation. It is time for us to seek for a new social contract, to seek for an inclusive solution where the English-speaking people will feel that we have a just solution that protects our own specificity. The Cameroon government have already agreed that we have a root cause problem. Now, how do you solve it? Do you come and you are giving us a conciliator, a public conciliator over power over the mayors and the people that were elected? We never had a problem with the mayors in the first place. We had a problem with the governors and the SDO. We want a devolution of power where the functions of the governor is specified by the constitution. You are governing over what? What is your jurisdiction? What are your duties? Where is the civil service that supports that duty? We want our own budget. What do you manage? We don't want puppet governors and puppet SDOs and DO. We want the people to be given the power to elect them and rule themselves under this condition.
Capo Daniel, when you say you've noticed that, okay, the victory is not possible, there are many persons who would say you are speaking for yourself and that the fighting must go on till the last man standing. How do you consider or conclude that the war is not winnable? What makes you to take that posture?
First of all, we were fighting this struggle from the beginning as a result of self-defense. Our villages were being burned. Some SDO were calling on our people to leave their villages and go to Nigeria. And the Cameroon military was very excessive. This is something that many independent human rights organizations have well documented. In that, our action in self-defense, we also exert our own identity by saying we want independence. Siseko declared our independence as a result of the inaction or rejection of negotiation by the Cameroon government. So we have evolved as well. We must look at the reality and say that, militarily speaking, we cannot defeat Cameroon. Internationally, we have not been able for 8 years to have recognition of our independent state. The prospect to have that is very slim, or doesn't exist at all. So it is rational. It's for our people's sake. This is not politics. I'm not a politician. We are there to fight for the life and identity of the anglophones. Since the Cameroon government have suggested this is their problem, the fighting have not stopped. It is not because somebody is remote controlling the voice. It's because on the ground, the people know that this solution does not reflect their aspiration and it does not resolve the problems that they were fighting for in the first place. Of course, there will be Amazonian groups that are extreme that will say that let us fight for independence, whether we can have it or not, or let's fight a suicide mission where we say to the last man standing. Most of those people, over the time, you see that are people who are not really in touch with what is happening on the ground. As you have seen in the refugee camps in Nigeria, where I've forwarded you some of the videos, you have seen members of my organization on the ground talking to refugees. Refugees are voicing their opinion, saying that they are tired of the war. They want to go back home. Our diaspora population, they want to go back home and enjoy immunity because the ban against the consortium still stands. It makes any collective representation of our people's right or advocating for the people collectively And we hope that the Cameroon government and the president of Cameroon and his regime should not put their ego over the life of Cameroonians. They should do the right thing. What we are asking for devolution is not something that they themselves have not contemplated, as Dr. Ni have said. If you look at the special status, he recognized our region as one and specific territory. Why do they have to give us two House of Assembly? We want a single legislature. We want to be able to express that our uniqueness as a one territory, one Southern Cameroon territory, or one West Cameroon, as the people may choose to. But we want real power that is divulged from the Constitution of Cameroon that will clearly reflect that this country is one country, but it is made up of two people. We want to see that constitutional change. These are the hard things that can stop the war. The boys are fighting because they know that there is an injustice. And the only way we can effectively solve this problem, I'm talking to you like the father of self-defense, the person who have trained forces, who have project our nationalism, the person who have represented the struggle at the highest level to demand, and with this peace plan that I am offering through this organization to the Cameroon government and the people of Cameroon, to accept devolution as the basis. Let's sit down and talk about how we can divulge power from the constitution. For the meantime, to build confidence, release our political prisoners who accept to secede from hostility. Those who sign on to the peace plan accept Cameroon as one country, but insist on two people. They accept to stop fighting and seek reconciliation under the understanding that we have a negotiated settlement that will involve both sides. That is our proposition, and we are calling on all Cameroonians, and we have received very good feedback from the political elite, and even some of the CPDM people are also coming. Francophones have also been reaching out, and we hope that by declaring that we abandon hostility and embrace the peaceful method, it will open the door for people to come to us, to listen to the plight of our people, and the international community to open avenues for us to speak the plight of our people, the English-speaking people, whose identity are under a ridiculous attack from the French-speaking region. Even the majority of Francophones do not accept this type of bilingualism that you are forcing on our people. So we should speak the truth, we should stand on the truth, and forget these delusional people. There are people who will say that we will fight to the end until the last man standing. Even in Uganda, we have this type of people. The Lord Resistance Army, they are still fighting in the bushes in Uganda, but they do not represent the vast majority of our people. The vast majority of Anglophones stand with what I propose. My organization have the greatest network within our communities. We have put out videos of our members expressing the will of the refugees, the wills of the soldiers, and we hope that our people will seize this opportunity and apply pressure, especially as we are coming towards an election year, that before election should go on. Cameroon cannot guarantee, without a negotiated settlement, that political parties Maurice Kamto can visit Kumbu or can visit Kumba without armored car. What type of election is that? Is it an election for the military people to vote? They are building, spending money, buying weapons, building camps. Why can they not sit us together, sit on the table with us and have a negotiated settlement? We have made significant concession to recognize that, okay, yes, in the beginning you said that there is no Anglophone problem. We also said that we are not part of Cameroon, we were never part of Cameroon. Now we have come to say that, okay, we accept that there is one Cameroon that constituted two people. We now say that we are ready to secede from hostility and have set the stage with my influence of my organization and my credibility in the struggle. Our forces are now ready to even move to the next stage if the Cameroon government is serious. So they should seize this peace plan from my hand. All Cameroon politicians of goodwill, activists and journalists like you should seize this peace plan from my hand and make sure that we don't miss this opportunity.
Now, Capo, you putting out this peace plans and you want nobody to cease to miss the opportunity. Have you engaged other leaders, secessionist leaders like Cho Ayaba, Chris Anu, Sako, and a host of others? Are they in conformity with this your move?
Yes, we have extended our proposition to all the Ambazonian groups. We have presented to them the privilege to have a look about our peace plan so that they can see the content and of our plan for the refugees, the future of the Ambazonian soldiers who have picked up arms, and the Ambazonians in the diaspora who have expressed political opinion that are afraid to go back home. We have presented to them. The reaction have been very varied. While we have very strong individuals who are in support, but they will not voice it publicly, for the vast majority of our struggle, we still believe that the solution cannot come from groups whose ideology are suicide in nature. There are groups in our struggle that have committed recorded war crimes, like the group of Ayabacho and the ADF. The Human Rights Report has investigated the acts that were committed, the public execution in Gozang. Those public executions do not reflect to all of us as Ambazonians. We have rejected those type of things. So people who are committing war crimes, who are not putting the people's interests first, you do not expect them to make any concession. The Ambazonian struggle is full of delusion. People who believe that everybody is working for Pobia, but you also have people who have made themselves presidents. These people are not in the logic in conformity with natural logic. So you don't expect that Chris Ano would call himself already a president, will come and say that he wants any solution that will not include his own Palais de Unité, or Sako to do the same. We have the same challenges when it comes to education. We started this struggle by banning education and saying everybody should boycott education. In the middle of the struggle, me, who took that responsibility to enforce that ban, I stopped schools from going on. I educated soldiers to stop school from going on. At one point, I tell our people that, look, we cannot suspend school forever. We have to even give our people a chance of education because it violates the right of children to education. I proposed the community school. All of the various Ambazonian organizations, they rejected it, and they said that I was working for Pobia because I wanted education for our people. But that did not stop me. I campaigned, and eventually it was adopted by all the forces. But till today, the various movements do not still agree that education should go on under our community school system. So how will any reasonable person expect people who are not in conformity with logic to come to their senses? You cannot hold the whole people hostage because Chris Ano say he's president. He is irrelevant. What are the influence of Chris Ano in Ground Zero? What are the influence of Ayabacho in Ground Zero? We saw in Momo in Batibo. He's fighting against the population in Batibo, burning palaces in EY. His soldiers was arrested by our population in Widikum and handed to the Cameroon military. So there are extremists in Ambazonians that have been rejected by our people. But we should separate the struggle of Anglophones, the struggle of the Ambazonian people from the fighting. The fighting is only one of the tools that we have to foster the rights and identity of Anglophones. Right now, because it has been hijacked or polluted by extreme groups, it is no longer viable. It plays against us. It hurts our own people. It is excessive. And it is our people have said enough to armed conflict. And my organization have expressed what we have received from our people. It is not just something that comes from me as a leader. It comes from an organization with the biggest network amongst our people. And I believe even you as an Anglophone, you have ears on the ground. You will know that our population have rejected an armed movement that focus on our own people, hurts our own people, than it hurts the enemy. This does not mean that we embrace the Cameroon military tactics. This does not mean that we accept the conduct of the Cameroon military. It simply means that it is no longer viable. The right thing to do is to pursue the advocacy for our self-determination through peaceful means, which is what my organization have adopted.
Okay, we're coming back to you, Capo. Daniel, so many questions. Many persons have written questions. I'm going to be asking them to you after the intervention of Dr. Nick. Doctor,
yep.
Adopting a non-violent approach to fight for the right and self-determination of the English-speaking people of Cameroon, how attractive is that? Is it possible given the division that you see amongst the various factions involved in this conflict?
It is possible, and it's the only thing that is going to happen.
Okay.
Because like you have said somewhere else, if you look at the war now that is going on between Ukraine and Russia, I can tell you that that war would end at a round table. What is happening between the Israelites and the Palestinians, that thing would end at the round table. All wars that end at the round table. So our own situation in Cameroon is not going to be different. And even as we speak, you know, quote me, His Excellency President Paul Biya is of the mindset that this nonsense should stop, and that we should this dialogue should go on, this negotiated settlement or whatever should go on. And as long as we keep Cameroon one and united, but we put in what it takes for us to coexist and function normally, it will be okay. So take it from me, quote me, that His Excellency President Paul Biya wants this problem solved as long as it is not a divided Cameroon. It's one Cameroon, two people, West Cameroon, East Cameroon. We put in what it takes for the nation to work. And as long as we can do that, it's okay. It's okay, and that is what is going to be, and it's going to come. So if you are wondering whether President Paul Biya would like this or not, hear it from me that yes, he would like it, and yes, he wants us to continue to talk about it and see how we can make it to go forward. Because though we are talking about the Swiss talks, we're talking about the Canadian talks, we can as well say that on this platform today, we have started those talks, and as we can actually just agree in Cameroon and get it going, and only get a third party to certify to say, yes, these people, they actually agreed to do the right thing. And if the major national dialogue had actually paid attention to what we had, to what was going on and did the right thing, we will not be here today. It's because the national dialogue went on a tangent, left the problem and was treating something else. They set their own examination and marked it and gave it an answer, which was wrong. That's why we are having problems today. Actually, special status or whatever makes no sense. It makes no sense at all, and we have to all go back to the drawing table and get everything right. Once we get it right, there will be no problem, and I bet you this problem will be solved. And the problem will not be solved by the next president, it will be solved by His Excellency President Paul Biya, because that's his legacy. He wants it solved, and it will be solved. And I must say that if it has stayed so long, it's because of the people around him, some people around him who told him things that were not true, and then it got everybody in a mess. So now he wants it to be solved, and it will be solved, and those people around him who are deceiving him, ask them. They will tell you that Pa doesn't listen to them anymore because he wants the problem solved. We cannot keep deceiving ourselves for 8 years. Now, we were talking about something that happened. There was this Peter Kingsmagnon of blessed memory. In 2017, I learned something new from him. You know, there was this thing that he called the dogs of war phenomenon. I don't know whether Colbert too was talking about it, but I think that thing came from Peter Kingsmagnon, the dogs of war phenomenon. He was warning us at the time, and he cited the issue of Bin Laden and as to how this kind of wars they evolve. You know, at the time, you know, the anglophone groups, they had these anglophone groups that were fighting, and the voices on the ground could listen to the people from abroad, and there was some kind of a coordination as long as, you know, there were some resources coming and some sense of order. But as we go along, all these generals, they begin to pop up on their own, so that there is a disconnect between the ground forces and those that were said to be giving them orders. And when that happens, because young people, once they take the gun and begin to realize that they have power in their hands, then that power goes into their heads and they can do just about anything. And then even you who gave them the guns and the money, they would not listen to you again. And when we get to that kind of a situation, it becomes very chaotic, very dirty, and very unfortunate. And that is the that phenomenon is called dogs of war phenomenon, where the dog will turn around and eat its master. You know, that's why Bin Laden was killed, because Bin Laden, I understand, was put in place by the Americans, but Bin Laden turned against the Americans, and the Americans went for him. So dogs of war phenomenon is something that happens. And then there is the war economy that has set in now, and the war economy too is very dirty. At the end of the day, people are no longer fighting for the cause. People are fighting but for their stomachs, fighting for some other things, which is not what actually triggered the war. And if you don't take care of that kind of an economic decay or economic situation where people begin to look at what they are getting out of the war, when people put their sweet tooth on free money or free opportunities coming from that, then the whole thing becomes very chaotic, and you would end up with some people in the government or people on the Ambazonian side who do not want the war to end because it becomes their business. And we are saying that all of that has got to stop. Let us go back to the drawing table, get things right, and stop this nonsense, because a lot of people are suffering.
Okay, so many persons are suffering. I will take some questions for you. Capo Daniel, I know you know MKPD very well, is watching the program. He says, hello Mr. Liu, this is MKPD watching from Douala. My question is for Capo Daniel. In 2019, Capo Daniel was the defense chief of the ADF when his group kidnapped, murdered, and beheaded Madame Ayafor Florence in Pinin on the 14th of October 2019. The ADF put out information claiming that they had 3 suspects in their custody and investigations were going on. Can you tell us whatever happened with the so-called investigation, and how do you intend to give justice to Ayafor Florence and those of us who were targeted by the armed groups which have been designated as terrorists by the Cameroon government?
Yeah, that is a very a big low in this conflict when we all watched that video of this lady, Madame Ayafor, pulled on the street and she was humiliated. Her body was destroyed. And me as a young man, as an activist, I think I just would respond to LKPD. I was not working with the ADF. At that time, I was just an independent activist. I was working with the Tigers of Ambazonians who were mainly fighting in Manu at that point. But as an activist who were encouraging people to pick up arms, I had responsibility as well, and I took my responsibility to investigate what happened. And I've responded to this same question in this same platform. What happened is that when boys pick up arms, some of them who are not trained and they are not in very strong command and control, they sometimes do things that are embarrassing to all of us. Those boys were real Ambazonian fighters who were in Pinyin, and they were bribed and misled by somebody who had a marital issue with this lady, this poor lady, Madame Ayafor, that they should assassinate her, and the issue of Ambazonia was just coming into it. Those boys were motivated by money to carry out that activity. I have publicly said that we condemn the dehumanization of that woman. It is not correct. My advice at that time to the ADF General Efang, was that arrest these boys, put them publicly and account for what they have done. And he told me, they gave me pictures where these boys were displayed with handcuffs on their hands. We show it to the public that these are the boys who were responsible for that actions. By putting them in handcuffs, we send a clear indication that these are not acceptable conducts. These conducts do not reflect the anglophone people, and it does not represent a conduct that we will support in terms of responsibility for leadership. I heard that those boys had been banished to Nigeria. I was not directly responsible for what happened, but as an activist who was pushing for this struggle, I took responsibility to provide this information to the public. So if that will answer the question for Mr. LKPD, that is what happened, and that is very regrettable. And that lady who was killed, fortunately, she was called Mama Ambazonia because she was taking given special treatment to Ambazonians activists who were in prison. So it wasn't related directly to this struggle. It was motivated by money, and that is very regrettable that we find ourselves in this war where people can now pay boys to go and kill people around. And that also shows the reason why we have to end this war. The Cameroon president, as we have expressed, we have received indications that they have reacted positively to my peace plan, but we know the nature of the regime in Yaoundé. They are so proud that they will reject that. They were even in Canada. But as Dr. Nick have said, we all must come together as Cameroonians and hold Pobia and insist that you should not give responsibility to the ministers that you have appointed. We know that there are people feeding the president of Cameroon with false information to manipulate him, but he's ultimately responsible. He's the commander-in-chief, and he's responsible to have the proper intelligence of what happened. It is time for us Cameroonians to come together, Anglophones and Francophones, sit down and look into how we can live together. We should think about the olden days where West Cameroon and East Cameroon used to function as two separate people in one country. We had our own parliamentarian, we even have our own football team. The Scotland people in United Kingdom have a football team, they have their flag. They are not afraid of that diversity. Cameroon should embrace the English culture and be proud of the English culture and preserve it. Do not risk it for marginalization. All this killing, we are Bantu people. When Pobia took our power, I remember my mother told me that this man was in the seminary, he wanted to become a priest. I mean that people will not need to go to the bush to express themselves. Today, people are running away in the bush because he has reacted in this manner, or his collaborators have reacted in this manner, he must take responsibility. As Monsieur Kankan said, Manjunga, before you die, give me my money. Before Paul Biya you leave, solve this problem. We want one Cameroon, two people. That is my dream. That is my vision. That is a vision that has my cabinet have expressed. And we are ready to take dispensation to ensure that if the Cameroon government reciprocate or react properly as they are indicating at the back, because they will never give us Anglophones or separatists any face. But if they say that we are all Cameroonians as they are claiming to be, they should know that this is not capitulation. To accept and put the people's first is not a shame. We are very proud of the fight that we have fight, and we have no apologies, but we also regret that we had to go to war to fight for our identity. Let's go back to the old days where West Cameroon had our own legislature. We had our own prime minister. If we choose to have governors instead of prime minister, we want our people to be able to elect them. We want that power not to come from the executive branch like the special status is. We want it to come from the constitution, devolution of power from the constitution. Hand it to the Anglophone people. Let us manage our own police. We don't want police people who are coming from Eton. Let the people in Eton, they come to Limbe to enjoy themselves in the beach. But we don't want them to be in our court system. We don't want French to be the medium of education in Bamenda or in Kumba. In Canada, the medium of education in the Quebec region is French, not bilingual, but it is a bilingual country. That is how it's supposed to be. Now in Yaoundé, there are schools that are Anglophone schools that they have written on the wall. I saw some pictures that no French allowed. So let us preserve the English-speaking culture, the Bajuara culture, the bilingual nature of the country. How can you say you want to employ bilingual teachers? Is there anything like bilingual science teachers in Cameroon?
Okay.
No.
Let us evolve. I want to read a part of what you wrote. You said the peak of the rise of the armed groups in our territory has come and gone without us taking advantage due to our divisive dynamics to coordinate a decisive push away of the Cameroon military presence. So you think that we've gone past the peak of the fighting in the southwest and northwest regions?
Yeah, I think it is true. It's just the reality. At the peak of this struggle was between 2018. I speak so as a defense official who was responsible for building the capacity. Our peak was in 2018, 2020. Within those 2 years, we had the highest amount of forces. Our forces were highly motivated. You could see from our communication, there were activists who were every day calling on boys to rally money and support the forces. But today, each time Amazonians want to raise money, Amazonians will attack them, not even the Cameroon government. We have seen our forces fighting communities in ground zero. The ADF are fighting Amazonians now, not even Cameroon military. They are fighting to collect tax. So when we had that peak of our struggle, unfortunately, because of our internal dynamic, we could not take full advantage to coordinate a massive push of the Cameroon military presence in our territory, because we just had a pocket of Cameroon military men. Most of their remote areas of administration have been abandoned. So we just had military, but we didn't take advantage of that period, unfortunately, because of our dynamic. That period have come and gone, and we have learned from hindsight. But even more importantly, we see an opportunity here to say that, okay, this thing has not turned out the way we expected it. The Cameroon government have also considered and acknowledged the problem. Now, why should we be fighting after 2019? Why should we continue this war? There is no reason for us to fight again. If the Cameroon government have accepted that this problem is real, it requires that they maintain the uniqueness of our territory, and then I believe it has opened the door for dialogue. And I want to not give credit to anybody in that regime, because the last thing you want to hear is that some of them are going around and say that, oh, Capo Daniel is saying today because now we did back, because that is how the regime is. It's very corrupt. Our people should know that our motivation is the suffering of our people. I, as an activist, I have been there with the people from refugees, telling their story on social media, telling their story to the international community, writing to defend the soldiers, teaching them how to fight, motivating them, and we know exactly what is going on. We want our people's suffering to come to an end. We also want the death of Cameroon military people to end. We are all Bantu people. I spoke to the general in in the south, in the West Cameroon, let me call it West Cameroon, not Eko, how do you call this general there? He's somebody who have gone to school in anglophone region. He has studied in anglophone. He is now the commander of the Cameroon military in the English-speaking region. Now, when I was talking to him in trying to make sure that we de-escalate the conflict, he was expressing himself in perfect English, and he respects our people. Many anglophones and francophones, we really don't have problem with each other when we talk to each other. And we should not allow this thing to spoil our image around the world.